Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to After the Game with Todd Leary, coming to you live from Yogi's here on this Saturday afternoon, and Indiana taking on a Michigan State team that has not been a good year for them, and they were desperate. And I remember talking last week saying that they're going to knock somebody off. It was a matter of time. We just hoped it wasn't going to be Indiana because that's all they have to play for. And really, Todd, we watched this game come out. You could see the plan that Archie had. It was pretty simple. Get the ball down low to Trace Jackson most of the time. Race Thompson could help out. That worked extensively. Then they kind of got away with that, and they let Michigan State force them into shooting the ball, and things just kind of changed and went downhill from there.
I mean, the positives, Trace Jackson Davis was great. Race Thompson was pretty good. I mean, those guys were solid. Armand Franklin was decent. Like he was decent. And then you go beyond that, and you know, I'm going to go with – there's going to be so many I told you so's in this show today. But I told you early in the season that Indiana couldn't win more than 2 Big Ten games if they don't make more than 4 3-pointers a game. And they made 4 because they made 1 in the last couple of seconds. But they really only had 3 throughout the majority of this game. And you can't win if you can't shoot. It's a simple, equation in college basketball these days, and you can't win if you can't shoot and score the ball. And the two guards with Finney, I mean, we said last game, Finney, I felt like he turned the corner and played great, and he was back to the old Rob Finney today because he and Al were awful today.
Well, let's give you your stat line for Rob Finney. 0 points on 0 for 6 shooting. He was 0 for 4 from behind the three-point line, did not get to the free throw line, had 1 rebound, 4 assists, 4 personal fouls, 3 turnovers in 30 minutes of play. Al Durham, 4 points on 0 of 4 shooting, 0 of 2 from behind the three-point line. He got to the free throw line 4 times. He hit those. He had 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a foul, and a turnover. Yeah, those are your 2 veteran guards.
Can't win. You look at what were their 2 minutes combined? I think they were like
36, and it'd be 66 minutes.
66 minutes of play, and you have 0 made field goals for 2 starters. And then off the bench, I think was Jerome the only player that scored off the bench? I think Jerome might have been the only guy that scored any points that came in, and that's only like 4 or 6 points or something. So, yeah, I mean, with this stat line, you can't – I mean, Trace Jackson Davis is great. Like, he does a lot of great things. I said this before, and it's not to pick on him, but Trace Jackson Davis doesn't make other people on the floor better. He makes it more difficult because they know that he can't shoot from the outside, so all they have to do is take away the inside. I shouldn't blame it on him. It's not his fault those other guys didn't make any baskets. And Indiana looked pretty good in the last ball game because you saw Rob Finney driving the ball to the basket, Al Durham driving the ball to the basket, and today we didn't get any of that. It's just this is look, let's just put it out on the table. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is a terrible freaking loss. Like, this kicks you out of the NCAA tournament. You got to beat Michigan or somebody crazy now to get back in, and I don't see that happening.
I don't either. And the way they lost this game, I mean, I don't want to. Tom Izzo saw what was happening. And he knew what he had. He lost Marble right off the bat. He had 2 fouls right off the bat. And then he sits out most of the half, comes back in the second half, and he gets 2, third and his 4th foul in less than 2 minutes, and his ass is out again. So they don't even have Marble on the floor, which I'm like, well, this is over now. They got no shot. And I'm like, watch this going, are you kidding me? They just they took what Indiana gave them and turned it around.
And truly, I felt exactly the opposite because I would have preferred he'd been on the floor because Kithier guards the interior guys better than –
Well, someone else was saying that too.
I would have preferred Marble to be on the floor because offensively, I felt like Indiana had a bigger advantage, whether it was Race or Trace, either one he was guarding. But, at the end of the day, those guys played good. I mean, you can't complain about how the inside guys played. They played pretty good. They played well enough to win. And, they said at the end of the broadcast, I don't know if you could hear it or not being in there, but they said at the end of the broadcast that Archie Miller had made the statement that 2 of the 3 guards need to play well in order for them to have a chance to win. He couldn't be more correct. Like, 1 of the 3 played decent. Like, Armand played decent. He didn't play bad. He didn't play great, but he played decent. But Rob and Al were just miserable. Like, they were awful. And that's where, I thought the offense, this is the I told you so, Jim. And this is me saying it over and over again. But you and I have discussed, I think the offense looks different and plays faster when Christian Lander's on the floor. And in the first half, I felt the same way. When he was on the floor, I felt like the offense looked different. And the second half, I didn't get to watch it as closely as normal. I don't know if he played at all, but he didn't play very much if he played in the second half.
Let's see what his minutes are. He was in there a little bit. I do remember that. His total minutes, though, where is he? 9 minutes. So he had a total of 9 minutes today, which was more than I expected. Here's the thing for Christian, and I agree with everything about that. And I love when he's on the floor because as soon as he gets the ball in bounds, he's gone. And you can see it right immediately. His shot is a problem for him right now, and I wish that he would focus on running the team right now and what he actually – all those intangibles that he does bring, because his shot it's just kind of off. And let the other guys be the scorers or get to the rim or create or facilitate in a different way. But they need him on there, but he's got to – I'd like to see him stop –
But
I know you got to be able to shoot, but right now
I'm with you, but I don't think that he comes in like shooting right away. I think most of his shots happened in the last 6 seconds of the shot clock, which is unfortunate because I think if he was being more aggressive, he would shoot earlier on. I think he would shoot a higher percentage. But I mean, here's where you got to look at, Jim. So I mean, Archie Miller said this before. It's not going to change. The lineup's not going to change. So I don't know why we keep beating our head against the wall here, but I don't understand if it's not going to change and we're going to have to live with Rob Finney every other game or 2 out of 3 games or 3 out of 5 games scoring 0 points or scoring 2 points, then I feel like I have the right to bitch and complain and be upset because I can't stand watching this crap. Like it's miserable to watch. This team in the second half today was as boring of a basketball team to watch as I think you could watch all day long if you sit here and watch basketball all day today.
The funny thing, I saw early on, I saw a lot of tweets that were saying, man, Indiana would be up so big if this and if that. I'm like, well, the whole season would be different if this and if that. That's been the whole season has been ifs. Or actually, it's been for 4 years. It's been ifs. So you might as well, you got to change that. And I think I've told a lot of people way before today, I do not see this team making it to the tournament. I know you've said that, but I didn't see them winning. I thought they would split these last 4 games. Maybe that was with them beating Rutgers. But you can't lose today. It's over to me because there is no way in hell this team beats Michigan. I don't think there's a way that they can beat Rutgers, and I'm not really sure there's a way they can win at Purdue. So this team could potentially lose out going into the Big Ten tournament, which is going to put you in the bottom down there. They could lose their last 5 games of the season.
Well, I mean, what happens if they do reschedule the second Michigan game? I mean, what happens in that scenario? I mean, that's another loss. You're not beating them. Indiana, we could give Indiana 65% shooting in that game, and they're not going to win that game. And so if they do reschedule that one, that's a terrible situation for Indiana. We're hoping they don't.
They did reschedule the Michigan State game.
But I said early on that this team, the way they were playing at that time, was going to be 12-15. Okay. And they're 12-10 right now, I think. And I'm not sure I would back off of that statement because I don't know who they beat in these last. I don't know who they're going to beat in these last 3 games, 4 games, whatever.
They do get Michigan State again, who they just lost to at home. They gave up. They let Michigan State shoot nearly 50% today as well. Early on,
you can count on one hand how many times that's probably happened this year. Michigan State can't score. I mean, their problems with Michigan State this year, they can't score. I mean, their defense is they play hard. Their defense is mediocre. It's not as good as normal. They don't rebound as good as normal. But, Jim, what have I said? I know people probably want to punch me in the face when I say this, but Indiana is everybody's get-right game.
And
what they just do for Michigan, they just became Michigan State's get-right game. They were Northwestern's get-right game. They were – it goes on. Rutgers, good get-right game. I mean, it's just – I can't stand being somebody's whipping boy, and we're the Big Ten's whipping boy right now.
I mean, you understand it in the 6-25 season because of where they were. This is not that. This is actually, it shouldn't be. It should be the opposite of a trajectory, but it's not. That's another discussion we'll have after the season's over. But the bench, a comment there from Greg. Yeah, Michigan State's bench came in, and man, they kept bringing the energy and energy. The more they succeeded, and it was like, wow, whose home game is this? But the bench, they just played solidly for Michigan State. They didn't do anything special.
Yeah, I mean, you can take a guy who's super parallels to me. You take Gabe Brown from Michigan State, very similar to Jerome Hunter from Indiana. Those two guys, they kind of have the same seasons. They kind of have the same careers going on. And Gabe Brown outplayed him today. So he came into Assembly Hall and he outplayed Jerome Hunter today. Now, I mean, it's hard to pinpoint one-on-one guys like that, but Michigan State's bench is not like Gabe Brown coming off the bench for them. There's a decent chance he could be their leading scorer if he played 30 minutes a game. I mean, he's a good player and has been for a couple years for them. So, it's I like the way this reads. Jared has the comment there where he says no adjustments and refuses to play Leal. And barely played Lander. Like that comment, refuses to play. That's stated probably better than I'm used to saying it, because it pisses me off that they don't play. And the fact I agree. Archie refuses to play the younger guys, and I don't care what happens in, I'm way beyond what happens in practice. You can get away with saying, hey, you guys aren't there on a daily basis. You don't see what happens. You can get away with saying that when you're winning. When you're putting a product out on the floor that's winning, and I could say, hey, the last game we couldn't say anything. But Jim, there's just so many different things that make you mad about this team. And what do we see after the last game? Everybody immediately, what do they do? Go straight to Twitter. All the players straight to Twitter, talk about how they've got it figured out. Another W. Blah. I mean, I want to freaking punch these people in the face. Like it would be a bad scenario if I ever came one-on-one with these guys, because I'm terrible at faking being nice, and I hate this team. Like, I hate watching this team play. I'm straight up telling you, they're a boring team to watch. And
how much of that do we put on them? I mean, I know that they bear some responsibility. There's no doubt. Players bear. You were a player. You know how much the player's responsibility bears. So we'll put whatever it is, we'll put that on them, and they accept that portion of it.
Yeah, but I mean, we're saying that because we would rather different guys be on the floor. We would rather Leal,
yes,
Lander. Where's Geronimo today? Did he get hurt? I don't know about. Like, where was he today? This is a game I felt like he could have benefited Indiana in. He creates another kind of mismatch. Is he hurt? Like, why did he not play?
I think he may have actually tweaked something the other day.
Are we taking turns just not playing guys now? I mean,
well, Lander got put in, and he had an errant, I think it was an air ball 3-pointer, and then he tried to pass inside the Race, and Race moved away when the pass, and it just was a turnover, and he took him out right then. He tried to talk to him, but he didn't. He took him out, and instead of leaving him in and working through that. And I know you look at the balance of the game being in there, but you can't. If they can't learn those situations when they're in there, those situations are going to happen again.
And here's, this is easy for us to say, like we're on the beneficial side of this right now because it is this far down the road. But we can sit here and say, had you let them make those mistakes early in the year, then maybe they wouldn't be making them right now. And I mean, Keith making the statement, Landers isn't ready.
Yeah, see, I disagree with that. I know why he's saying it, but I disagree with it. And I think he should have been made more ready personally, but
look, let's not, I'm not going to turn it around and say that he is, that he would be one of the top guards in the Big Ten. Okay. I'm not quite ready to say that yet, but he also brings some things to the table that Indiana doesn't have. He brings some things that Indiana doesn't have. And
that's how bad this team is, though. There's not a lot. You don't have a lot of options. That's how bad the
guards are. That's how bad the guards are.
Yeah. You don't have a lot of options.
The guards as a whole. That's why the most telling statement to me, and honestly, the most disappointing statement to me that I've seen the entire season, was Archie saying, "You're seeing what's going to be out on the floor. We're not making any changes.
This is who we are.
This is who we are. We're not making any changes." And that to me,
That's why he got beat today, for one thing.
I don't like what I see.
That statement that's up there right now, in my personal opinion, because Tom Izzo does not make those kind of statements. What he does is he watches the game unfold, says, oh, they're going to do this. Okay, well, I'm going to try to do that and make an adjustment. And then next thing you know, whoops, the game's turned around. Yeah. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame coach, of course. He's been doing that for 26 years. But there's a reason why they are good at what they do.
Look, you and I said this the other day. Like I specifically remember talking about it and thinking about it, that Michigan State was going to catch somebody this year. They're going to catch somebody. And I honestly thought it might have been Purdue. I thought they might have won at Purdue a week and a half ago or whatever. And when Purdue beat them fairly easily, I was like, okay. And watching Indiana play the other night, I was like, okay, now this is a should win. It's another must win. It's a should win. And I felt good. Like they tricked me, because I told you after the last game, something clicked in that second half, and I thought Indiana looked different. To start the game today, I thought they had just a different feel. I felt like they were going to play well. And
they looked in flow. Well, their plan was working, and they stuck to it for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I think they stuck to it throughout the game. Look, you can't win. In college basketball, you can't win if you're game playing every game. And I'm not saying this is their game plan, but I'm saying that your game plan can't be, we're going to throw the ball to Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson every time down the court. That's not a game plan.
Yeah, I sent that tweet out to that. So that's great for here. So this is not a recipe that's going to work against
Rutgers,
not going to
win.
Michigan or Purdue.
Michigan State. It's not going to win against Michigan State. You can't win. You can't play that way. Like, you've got to have more weapons than that. And
that brings up this question then: whose fault is the bad shooting? Because we've seen it. This has been a horrible shooting team for 4 years. That's Archie's fault there that you don't recruit shooters. But then if you've got a shooter like Anthony Leal that we're talking about, he can't be the only one, of course, but you were a shooter. I mean,
a part of it is, I will straight up say, a part of it is, I don't think there's anyone on that staff that fundamentally works with them on shooting. And I think that's a problem.
Or is good enough to do it.
Like, let's go back and think about something, Jim. What did we see after the last basketball game? If you got on Twitter and you looked after the last basketball game and after our show, what'd you see that whole rest of that night? Remember, it was a late game. It was a 9:00 game. We finished our show after midnight. And then the next morning, all Twitter all night long and all the next morning, all we saw was stuff about how Anthony Leal was out on the court shooting and Trace Jackson Davis was out there rebounding for it. And you saw people posting videos on Twitter of him out there shooting. And I wanted so bad to comment, except for there was nothing positive. This show would be 2 seconds long every day if we went with the whole, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. Because I didn't want to send a tweet out, because I watched Anthony Leal take 2 shots on those videos. And I'm like, why is there not a coach out there fixing his jump shot right now? I could jump shot in 2 seconds right now, watching a video that was from 30 rows up in the stands. And I watched what they were doing out there. And the fact that there was no coach out there with them shooting, fixing what he was doing wrong, tells me that's what the problem is. Because even though these guys are, look, let me ask you this. What do you think of Tiger Woods' swing? What do you think of Justin Thomas' swing? Dustin Johnson's swing? Those guys are the best players in the world. You know what they all have? They all have swing coaches. Yeah. So just because these guys are some of the best basketball players in the world playing at a high Division I level doesn't mean they don't need a shooting coach.
And when things don't go right,
you need somebody to tweak something really little. And these guys all, like, I'm going to tell you straight up, all of them have something tiny that they could change fundamentally that would make them all consistently better shooters. And for whatever reason that is, no one helps them do it.
Certainly not getting done right now. We'll have to see if that's probably not going to change. It hasn't recently. Let's do a real reset real quick. Of course, we're coming to you live from Yogi's after the game with Todd Leary. If you're not here, you should be, because everybody else seems to be. It's a great day. Get you some mini corn dogs. If you're not and about, stop in. It's got the streets cleared and everything here, man. Where are you today, by the way?
Tennessee.
Tennessee, out and about. Yep. All right. Yep. But things are going, the streets are clear here. It's a big day. It's everything fun except for the game today. But now you've got more coming up. You just lost to Michigan State. You got Rutgers coming in next. You got a Michigan team. You got to go to Purdue. You got to play this Michigan State team again on the road. you might have to play Michigan twice. And then the Big Ten tournament, you're going to be last. You're going to be a bottom feeder in the Big Ten tournament now. You could. It's going to be a rough end of the season.
You got 4 games scheduled for the rest of the season, and one of them is at home, and it's against Michigan, which you're not winning. No matter what, they're not winning that game. So you got to win at Rutgers, at Michigan State, or at Purdue. You got to win, I think, all 3 of those. You for sure have to win 2 of those. And I don't know that any Indiana fan would even come close to thinking that they're going to win any of them.
Well, I didn't see it happening before, but I definitely it's not happening now. It's a one-trick pony.
Yeah, they
could shoot when they get hot, but that's just a by happenstance. Like last week when we saw the offense, when we saw them get out and kind of it was a type of transition. It wasn't really transition. It was a happenstance, runouts. And they looked smoother and in flow and a little freer doing that. But that was outside of the script.
And even beside that, not just the rent. Like, look, the days of 7th grade basketball where you get a bunch of easy layups, that's not happening anymore. But Indiana was driving the ball. Like, they weren't waiting till the end of the shot clock. They were catching it and driving the ball, getting a man off balance and kicking it to somebody else, and he was driving the ball. Indiana didn't make a lot of shots in the last game. They made more than today, obviously, but this team, I've given up on the fact that they're going to be a good shooting team, but I've not given up on the fact that they can drive the ball and create problems at the other end. And look, this was – I don't know how closely you watched this, but with 15 minutes to go in the game, both teams were they were 1 foul away from the bonus. And Michigan State's not a great free throw shooting team either, so it wasn't that big a deal, but I didn't love Indiana's chances at that point because they're such a poor free throw shooting team.
Yeah, and it worked for them today. They did sink them. But Trace Jackson-Davis was hitting his free throws, but he was one of the only ones getting to the line. That was another problem. No one else was really the guards, if they weren't hitting, why are they not trying to get to the rim? Back the bigs out. Hell, Michigan State, what they did was they backed their bigs out, and they took their big guards and backed Rob Finney down, drew a foul on him. There was just so many different things you could do, adjustments that could be made, and it doesn't happen. And that's, as Jared says here, Michigan State made adjustments and we didn't. I said that earlier. They let them hang around. Adds another. Yeah, you could have put them away early if it hadn't been for the horrible shooting, because Michigan State couldn't hit the ocean from the ocean, but neither could Indiana. And it was trace or race in early going. So they could have really buried them early. Didn't get that done. And a one-trick pony is not going to win many games.
Yeah, I mean, we can say it game in and game out, but you have to have Trace Jackson-Davis scoring some points. Like, you've got to have him be the focus of the offense, but he can't be the only focus of the offense. And, this is just frustrating loss. Like, this is one of those games we'd be better off to do this show, a day later, because let me cool down a little bit, because I can't stand being the whipping boy for the Big Ten. And the fact that you had a chance to stomp Michigan State. Look, how many years is Michigan State good, and we beat them twice? I mean, or at least split with them, and we go into their place and get a big win. And this is the year you have a chance to stomp them. And man, the start Indiana got off to makes this extremely frustrating that they didn't actually come out and come away with a victory.
At the free throw line, Trace Jackson-Davis got there 16 times. The only other people to even get there was Rob Franklin for a pair and Al Durham for 4. But they missed seven free throws. So 70%, not horrible, but Michigan State, they were 13 of 15, 86%.
And sometimes those numbers get skewed. Like, I thought the last game, the numbers got skewed, obviously, in Indiana's favor. Remember, they shot the ball terribly from the free throw line for the first
most of the game,
25 minutes, and then the last 15 minutes they made everything. Well, in this game, I'm not blaming it on him. I'm just saying there's sometimes the timing of them make a big difference. And Armand Franklin missing 2 free throws in a row, 0 for 2 at the free throw line. Those were 2 big free throws at the time. And I know it's only 0 for 2, but I go back to the same thing. Like, if someone was working with him on some little things to tweak his shot, I don't think it's possible for him to go 0 for 2 from the free throw line. He's way too good a shooter for that to happen. They're letting him get away with making some little errors.
And I know that this question is a guess, a total guess, because there's been no change and we can't expect any change. But we know for a fact this team cannot beat Rutgers, Michigan, and Purdue like they play. It's just not going to happen. So how does Archie Miller go into those 3 games thinking we can continue doing what we're doing, which is not working against teams like Michigan State? You barely beat a Minnesota team that has not beaten anyone on the road. You struggle against Northwestern, who has lost 10 in a row at that point. It's not working. But so what do they do? What are they going to do against a Rutgers, Michigan, and a Purdue who are superior?
I feel like that there are things that I could say, okay, well, I feel like this is kind of the direction they're going to go. This is what they're going to do from now on. That's why I'm telling you, it's that frustrating to hear him say, this is who we are and this is who's going to play, because I don't see us beating. I mean, we could still beat Purdue, and I'm not saying this to rip on Purdue. I mean, Purdue's got some deficiencies. If you can figure out a way to stop the big guy, I mean, you've got a decent chance. Everyone has a decent chance of beating them. But look, those guys know how to finish games out. Those guys know how to win games when it gets down to the end. And unless Indiana has a freak performance and shoots the ball great and gets out to a big lead, I don't feel confident in them beating them either. So, Jim, it's kind of a loaded question that you're asking me, because I would love to say I think these are the changes that'll be made, except for Archie told us there aren't going to be any changes. I mean, this is what we're looking at.
Yeah, I knew it was. That's why I was like,
yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how to even ask this question.
I mean, that last one, when is the coach responsible and not the players? I mean, I think they're all the players are never not responsible. Like, I'm not sitting here saying this is all a coaching issue or this is all, they need better direction and all that. But I am saying everyone shoulders the blame for this. And this is why you don't get on there and send tweets out after a game that you win, because now what do you send out today? Like, if we go ripping on them today, which we're doing right now, we're the a-holes. Like, we're the guys who are picking on. Now they're young kids. When they win, they're grown men. And so, we have to shut up and stop being nitpicky and stop being bad fans and all that stuff. And I guess we're supposed to accept this crap. But the fact that you can't win more than 2 games in a row all season long, like, how am I supposed to get any momentum as a fan? Like, my momentum gets legs chopped out from under it every 3rd game.
Yeah, I'll leave that for the Facebook fanboys, as the
Jared,
rainbows and unicorns.
I like it there, Jared. I have a better chance of winning the 2021 Masters.
The fact is,
than them making the tournament.
The only reason that's not a true statement is because he can't get in it. If he could get in it, that would be a true statement. I would guarantee. I would take that. That is as fact. I promise you, because it is. If he could get in it. Absolutely, because I've seen him play golf, and I've seen this team play basketball. So trust me, I know. But yeah,
Jared's just buttering me up.
Couldn't read more, Todd. But yeah, I don't know. I feel sorry for the players. What the hell did they do? What the hell did they do now for these last several games when you're going against superior talent? When to me, you don't have to say this, but to me, they're getting out coached, and
but they're getting outplayed too. Like here's real simple. You don't have to, the coach doesn't have to do this for you. You can figure this out. Go back and watch. So let's just point at the finger where it belongs. Rob Finney, Al Durham, Armand Franklin. You take those 3 guys. Go watch the games that you put up good stat lines in. Go watch those games and see what you did in those games to get those stats. Rob Finney, throw away the game he had 18 points and made all the threes. I think that was Nebraska or whatever it was. Throw that game out the window. Throw away your best and your worst game. If you do that, I mean, first of all, if you throw away his good 18 and then throw away 1-0, he's still going to have a whole bunch of zeros left over. But this is one of those scenarios where those guys need to go on their own. This is you hear about it after a game like this where there's a players only meeting. No coaches allowed. Nobody else. Players only are sitting in there trying to figure it out. And you know what? You grab a manager and you say, hey, put a game film together for me offensively for, the 5 best games that each player had. and you go watch that and you see what they did that was good, and you go try to repeat that. But I can tell you what it's not. It's none of them are going to be shooting three-pointers. Okay. And we know, like, who's the best three-point shooter on the team, Jim? I'm asking you straight up. Who's the best three-point shooter on the team?
Armand Franklin. I mean, if you're going by, I'd say, yeah, numbers and
I mean,
percentages-wise, I'd have to really go back and look. Jerome Hunter, maybe, I don't know.
In a game of horse right now, I mean, I'm probably taking Al Durham or Jerome Hunter. Armand can get hot, and Armand is extremely capable. I think Armand eventually, with just a tiny little correction, would easily be the best shooter on this team, but he'll never be consistent until they work with him on something. And
you can do that this summer. I left that one up there for a minute. I was like, that's been sitting there.
Jennifer, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. You don't want my head to get too big. I get real cocky real fast. But I don't like this team. I don't like watching this team. They're all good kids. They're good people. They do the right thing. I just don't like watching them. I don't like the makeup of this team and the coaching staff combined. Now, who do you blame that on? I don't know. We can all sit around and, drink beers and blame it on everybody. It's not our fault. We didn't lose.
Nope, but they were recruited by the same staff that's coaching them, and you heard all you heard for 4 years. All you got, wait till he gets his guys. I was like, that's a bunch of crap.
It's a
bunch of crap. If you can coach, you coach. Hell, you had 2 NBA players on your first roster, so I don't want to hear that crap. That's a bunch of because now he's got his guys, so it's not that. Then it's philosophy. Now you come down to philosophy and all that stuff. It's
also, but what you're saying, and I agree with you, everything you're saying, I agree with, except for you're blaming it all on the coaching from what you're saying. And
not all,
that I
most.
disagree with. Like the players they bear some responsibility here.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I said earlier. They definitely bear responsibility. That's why I was asking you how much, because as being a player, you know way more than anybody else. How much is on that player when they have to put the effort in and bring the talent and those things and be committed. How much? I don't know. I didn't play that level.
You hear it all the time. You hear it about different places that are successful. You only hear it about successful teams. Is such and such has bought in to the whole culture and the program and the coaching staff and their philosophy and all that. And I'll just say this the way that it is. I think you can watch. You can watch 10 games of a lot of teams, and you don't even have to watch them that closely. And you can kind of identify the culture and what a team is trying to accomplish. Well, I watch every minute of every IU game, and I can honestly tell you, I'm not sure what our identity is, and I don't know what our culture is about, and I'm not sure what we're trying to accomplish.
Nobody
offensively
does.
Or defensively. Like the fact that someone says that we're a pack line defensive team or Archie coaches the pack line and all that, and then I watch what we do out there, that's not pack line. You don't know.
I was going to say, what happened to that? Because that has gone away. That defense is not the defense that he tried to implement 3-4 years ago when everyone struggled their ass off. I remember watching the Fort Wayne game, and I can't remember who it was. I was thinking about this the other night. They're out on the left wing right in front of me, and their guy got the ball about 5 feet behind the three-point line, but he was just standing there doing the defender was just doing circles. It was that bad. But this is not that defense. I don't know what they're doing differently. They are playing – sometimes they play really good defense, but sometimes very rarely do they play good perimeter defense.
I sort of agree with that, but also – I mean, I think they play good defense against teams that struggle offensively. The teams aren't very good offensively, which, I think a lot of teams their defense looks pretty good when they get to play against Northwestern and, Rutgers sometimes and this Michigan State team. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what their identity is. I don't know what they're good at.
Mike says, I don't agree with this. Geronimo's not the best player. He may be the best athlete, but he's not the best player. He athletically, scoring-wise, he doesn't bring a lot, but he brings defensively, he can do stuff that guys his size probably shouldn't be able to do.
Yeah, why would we try to identify the best player?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. It's okay,
and I'm not like.
Well, it's just I think he was just saying that he's not playing.
And I don't disagree with that. He would be
He
the
should have been
one
saying
that
he should be playing.
he's the one. He's the one that you can probably make an argument for today of why he didn't play. Jerome was going to be the first big guy that came in, and he should have been. Jerome came off of a good game, but why did Jerome not play guard? Like, why I would have put Jerome in as a 2 guard, and
I don't know why.
I would have. I mean, if this lineup were me,
he'd be hard to stop at that position. I'm telling you.
If this lineup were me, I'm telling you right now, I don't know how you can honestly sit there and make an argument for putting Rob Finney on the floor. And I'm not trying to pick on Rob Finney. I think last year I made the statement numerous times. I'm only comfortable when he's on the floor and has the ball in his hands. But right now, I am 100% opposite of that. And I think the offense is stale. I think it's stagnant. I don't think the ball moves. I don't think he's good offensively. Defensively, he made a couple of defensive plays today that if Archie wants to, ride this horse until it's absolutely gone, he's going to say Rob made some great defensive plays today, and he did. But it's 2021, and I will stand by the statement, you cannot win in 2021 NCAA college basketball if you can't shoot. I
agree. Royce, I really don't understand this comment. Indiana pressured Archie Miller to recruit Indiana, and that backfired. It didn't backfire. He didn't get all the players you should have got. When you don't get the talent, that is going to be a problem. He didn't get all the guys that he should have got, and he didn't recruit some that he should have. Nigel Pack out of Kansas State. There are a lot of guys that were ignored, but that's a whole nother show we'll talk about later. But I disagree with that comment completely. There's nothing but talent in this state. This is the best state to recruit. That's why Michigan State, Michigan, Illinois, Ohio State, Nebraska, Iowa, all of them, Louisville, Kentucky, Duke, all those teams get players from Indiana because it produces talent. So I don't agree with that statement at all.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. When you're winning, no one can argue with where your players are from. Whether you recruit in-state or whether you only recruit out-of-state or right now, Tom Allen's a good example of that. Right now, Tom Allen gets a lot of credit because they get a lot of players out of Florida, which supposedly produces an enormous amount of football talent. Nobody's complaining about Tom Allen right now not recruiting the state of Indiana. Nobody even brings it up. When you win, nobody even brings this stuff up. When you lose, they're going to say there's going to be some portion of the fan base that's going to say he's being forced to recruit Indiana. That's why he can't win. There's going to be portions of the fan base that are going to say he's recruiting people from outside the state. That's why they can't win. Like we're only nitpicking it because they're losing. It's that simple.
And Geronimo's not from Indiana, but he recruited tons of guys that just didn't come here. There was tons of guys who just didn't come here, so that's just irrelevant. But
and you're not going to you're not going to win them all. You're not going to get them all. Hey, I think people would say his recruiting since he's been in Indiana is the single strongest card he has to play. I mean, I think you take away this year, they didn't get Trey Kaufman this year. Besides that, name another guy they've really gone after that they didn't get. I mean, I'll tell you what was a big miss. This is just my opinion. A huge miss was the Demezy Anderson recruit. That was one you could have gotten.
It's a waste, yeah.
You could have gotten Jerome Hunter. Or I'm sorry, you could have gotten Eric Hunter. You could have gotten some different guys in that position. And Demezy was – look, you don't want to say you blame it all on one person or one recruiting class or whatever, but it was very difficult to coach Romeo Langford. Romeo is an outstanding player, but as a college talent, it's difficult to coach him, okay? It's difficult to coach a team that he's on because you want to make him such a focal point of it. And I'm just not sure that he was at that level yet. He needed 4 years in college to develop into a great college player. He'll be a great NBA player, but that's not what we're talking about. So then if you take that recruiting class, you take Romeo and Demezy, I mean, Rob Finney is the guy right now we're saying is the win out of that recruiting class. And I'm sitting here telling you part of the reason we lost today is because of Rob Finney. So that first recruiting class hurt a lot. Even though everyone ranked it super high nationally, that first recruiting class is a killer right now.
It was ranked just because of Romeo.
For sure.
And Romeo, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know what that really did for you. I know it got you a lot of marketing, but
You know what it did when he first got here? When Archie first got here, it was a home run. Everyone,
it would have been good. I think it would have been good, but someone else could have used it,
including myself. Everyone, when Archie first got here and made that his focus, and he got him to come in, everyone, including myself, said that's a big time get for a guy who just got here, getting hired at that point in the year. That's a big time get. Now that doesn't mean
Rick
that
Pitino
doesn't
got
mean
fired at Louisville where he was going before that.
But that doesn't mean it's easy to coach that guy. It doesn't mean look, Romeo is a this is not a show about Romeo or positively or negatively, but when you make him the focus of your team, it's a difficult team to coach. It's not easy. Coaching's not easy. You can't just draw up some plays,
especially when you have other guys, older guys who are stepped up into that role already.
You think looking back on that, you think Devontae Green wanted to give up the green light to Romeo Langford? No.
Kind of going back to your point, Jared says these current IU guys are so far removed from reality, Archie included, pick and choose when they give effort, lose at home constantly. Walk around campus in Bloomington, like on Twitter, like they're champions, yada. I'm not familiar with how they're on campus and all that stuff, but the one thing I do see is when I think of a team that is reeling or they're searching, I see a team that's focused. I think of your favorite movie, Moneyball. One of my favorite scenes is when Brad Pitt walks into the locker room. They just lost. They just got.
You want to know what listening sounds like?
They got the music blaring, and he goes, "Oh, it's fun." It destroys it. Is that what winning sounds like? This is what losing. We say what is what he said. That's what losing sounds like.
It's silent, and then he says, "That's what losing sounds like." And truly, like, you don't celebrate the wins. You don't celebrate the big baskets. You don't celebrate. Dan Dockich, I think he gets on Trace Jackson Davis a little bit too hard, but he also makes a really good point in that, Trace is the first guy right now to pump his chest when he does something good. And
yelling and all that stuff. I get on my nerves.
That's to me, it seems forced and kind of fake. Like, I don't think that's who Trace is.
Yeah.
But I also think maybe that's his way of trying to get some emotion going and get everybody going. I don't think it's selfish. I don't think Trace is a selfish player at all. But I do think that when you see those guys pounding their own chest and being all excited for themselves when they do something good, I think that's kind of a telltale sign of where we're at with this team or where this team is at.
And the shooting, we've talked about, it's not going to change. It's going to be streaky. It is, like Archie says, they are who they are. So you're going to get a crappy team one time and you're going to get a good team one day. That's just it. Nothing is going to change. Nothing. So if you're expecting change, I'm disappointed for you. But and unfortunately, without change,
disappointed for me too. I'm really disappointed. I'm telling you, it was a disappointing statement when I read that from Archie.
That's why I really
almost like letting the air out of the.
It wasn't a starting lineup question, which Kevin asked. Kevin Brockway, a friend of mine, comes on the show, asked him before me about the starting lineup and change, and I can understand that, which is rigid as Archie is, it's in practice, yada yada. But I wanted to ask about the halftime, and I did, and how. Whether or not a unit or a group or a person could impact their play at the end, just grabbing onto that momentum and just no is the answer. It's just no. It is what it is. We're going back to start zero, and it just seems like that's resetting. Then today would have been a good reset, and they kind of got that. But the difference was Michigan State was ready for this time, and they came right back down and scored. And just stayed right with them when they opened the half, and that was the difference.
Yeah, to me, here's where you can get away with that statement. When you produce a winning team, when your team is winning, when your team is no matter how they're doing it, when they're getting wins, you could stand there and say, "This is who we are. This is what we're going to live with. This is what you people better get used to watching."
But you know why Archie can say that?
Because
he's got a guaranteed
$3.4
million guaranteed for 100%. That's why he can say that.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I hear you with
true.
that. I don't disagree.
He's got no
with
fear.
It even. But I also do believe, like, I think Archie wants to be successful. I think Archie wants to win.
I would hope.
He doesn't. Archie's competitive. Like,
but I would be embarrassed. I would be embarrassed beyond recognition to do what's happening and be so rigid and arrogant to think that there's absolutely nothing different that can be done. So what I'm doing is perfect and it has to be done this way. To me, that is arrogance beyond reproach, especially when you have done nothing to the counter of that. You haven't won anything.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, here's I always like the statement that people say. I think Coach Knight, this is one of the things he was best at was, you never get too high in the wins and you never get too low with the lows, although I don't know he really adhered to that one. But, you just kind of remain even-keeled and humble and work hard and keep doing all that stuff. And right now, like, there's way too many lows. Like, we have way too many disappointing moments than we do positive moments. And that makes it very difficult from our perspective. I don't know. I mean, if you were a coaching staff, which I certainly hope they don't watch our show or listen to that stuff, I hope they have other stuff going on to try to get better and improve. But, I mean, if you did, you'd have to – I think they would try to argue with this because they would be like, you guys are just negative about everything. I just don't see any positives. Like,
there's not.
I don't know what to talk about. Like, I want to talk about positives. It's a lot more fun.
Hey, when I talk about football, it is nothing but positives, man. It's great. The coaching moves, everything is, you can see everything trending up. Every move is made to where I'm like, wow, that works out. Boom. You see, you can see things. Here, no, we see the same. It's a spinning cycle that's a cyclone.
And you're right. We see the same. But then when he comes out and says, you're going to continue to see the same, just a deep sigh, and I got the winds out of my sail. Like, I don't have any hope for the next game. I mean, if we polled Indiana fans right now and your annual salary depended on it, and we said, is Indiana going to win at Rutgers? Very few people are going to say yes.
Well, luckily they have them at home, I think, right?
No, they don't. They're at Rutgers. The only home game is Michigan.
Oh, holy cow.
The only home game is Michigan out of the last 4. Now they get to go at Michigan State. Are we going to say that's supposed to be a win now? I don't know.
No, it can't be. They just lost it at home to them.
I know. I don't. Look, look. We should end it because I'm trying to find something nice to say and not be so Johnny negative, but I'm Johnny freaking negative today. I hate losing.
I too. And the scary thing for me is, and I don't get, but next year, I mean, do you really think Trace Jackson Davis will still leave?
To go to another school, yes.
Oh, no, he's not leaving Indiana. Trace Jackson Davis is not leaving Indiana.
Trace Jackson Davis Jackson Davis. If you were Trace Jackson Davis, would you not, if you were going to come back for another year, would you not want to guarantee yourself you were going to play in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you go to. That's why we play. When you start every season, your goal, you could come up with the buzzwords that Tom Allen has for the season, or if you go basketball, everyone's goal at the beginning of the year is to make that NCAA tournament, get to the Elite Eight, get to the Final Four, and have a chance to win a national championship. And Trace Jackson Davis is going to be at the end of year 2. Now, it's unfortunate because they probably would have made the tournament almost for sure last year, but it didn't happen, and we have to go on and move on and live with that. This year, they're not making the tournament. He's going to be two years not playing in the NCAA tournament. If you were playing next year and you could willy-nilly, like I like to say, transfer anywhere you want to go, and you don't think Duke's not going to take open transfers next year? The way they're playing right now?
Someone sent me a stat the other day. There was 2 stats. Man, I wish I could remember both of them. But one was the AP poll since it started in 1949. No 4-year IU player has not spent at least 1 week in the AP top 10. Al Durham has never seen the top 20. That's since 1949.
Is that a fact?
It was sent. You look up the polls. That's a lot of checking.
Yeah,
but
I'm going to take your word for that one. But
it seemed a little rich to me too. But
I don't know. It's just frustrating. I mean,
said before, it is what it is. So, I wish I had. I mean, they're going to play the game, so they've beaten Iowa twice. So it's not like it's impossible for them to beat Rutgers. But for them to do that, we have to see them do things they rarely do, and that's be successful inside and shoot the ball.
There was a portion. There was a portion in the year when I think people could have beat up on Rutgers. They're well past that.
Recently.
They've graduated past that. Indiana was their get-right game. Hadn't they lost like 5 in a row before they came to Assembly Hall? And now you don't want to play Rutgers. Like, they're playing well.
What was I going to say? I forgot I had a stat to throw out. But, turnovers. Michigan State turned the ball over. I don't know what they ended, but they had 13 at one time. But they end up with 14 turnovers. But Indiana gets 17 points off of that.
Dude, you can sit here and play with the stat lines and all the little.
It just amazes me that how sloppy Michigan State was with the ball, but a lot of those came, I think, in the first half because it
how
was
how many bench points did Indiana have? 4, 5, 6, 7. What was it?
Oh, that's
how
a
many
great
Jerome
question
had?
there.
How many Jerome have? How many points did Jerome have? He's the only guy that scored.
6 points. Oh my God, are you kidding me?
So Jerome had 6 points. Otherwise, so think about this. Jerome, our bench had 6 points, which is one player.
34-6.
But think about this. Jerome had 6 points. He's our only guy that scored off the bench. And we had 2 starters that didn't make a field goal. Okay? So do you have to go look at points off turnovers and all the other stats and everything else that's on there? No. You have to go look at, we had 2 starters that didn't make a basket, and we had 1 guy that came in off the bench and made 3 baskets. And that's it. That's all the scoring we had. That's as far as you need to look.
It's not going to get a lot better, unfortunately, but I guess fans can continue to hope as Indiana was closing their season out. Man, I can't even get to so many comments. I appreciate you guys. I was trying to get to all of them, but this is just great. You guys are lighting them up, but I'll keep going through there. But make sure you follow up on Monday. We'll be back Indiana Sports Beat, of course. Don Fisher will be on then, and Charlie Miller. You hear his take on this. And as positive as he is, I'm going to say, Charlie, I'm sorry, brother. Yeah, there's nothing you can find good from this. But
Chucky Goldtooth is really good at finding something positive and all this. And he is. That's why he was so fun to be around. Like Pat Graham and I coached his AAU team. He was just a fun person to be around and awesome. And Charlie does a great job. But he is so positive about everything. We need back-to-back shows because then we can have me be the a-hole and then he can be the nice guy.
Hey, and don't forget, if you're out and about, to make sure you stop by. That's the wrong one, Yogi's. Of course, thank everybody from Finney Hospitality Group, Nathan Finney, Chris Martin, Kelly's here running around, and get you some mini corn dogs and whatnot. But I'm going to have some as soon as I'm done here, man.
Tomorrow
but we'll be back on Monday. Hopefully it gets better, but it's going to be what it is, man. There's going to be a lot to talk about when this season ends because no matter what, listen to this statement. Archie, I can't see Archie going anywhere because Indiana does not have the money. And who the hell are you going to get right now? Although I do have someone in mind now that I did not before. I didn't know this. Something came to mind. I'm not going to say it. I'm holding on to this for as long as I can. I love it. But it doesn't matter because money, it's money, man. This is all about money. And
Jim,
but I wonder,
Jim, we are who we are.
Poor, very poor. Todd Leary, the star of the show. I can't thank you enough, man. We couldn't do it without you, brother.
Thanks, buddy. I'm sorry, fans. Wish I was more positive, but
well, I hope you have a safe trip home, and we'll see you at the next game. But until then, and thank you guys for everything. Go out and do something nice for somebody. Stay safe out there. Wear your mask, and until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.